Hi, I'm Rachel Lancaster, and this is the Magnificent Midlife podcast. This is where we celebrate women in midlife and beyond. We challenge the status quo and bash those negative stereotypes about being an older woman. We're not over the hill at 40, 50, 60. We're just getting started. And the world needs us now more than ever. I'll be talking all things midlife, about issues that matter, and sharing fabulous stories of amazing women doing very cool stuff. Now's our time. My guest today is Tania Dalton, and Tania is a healthy aging coach and a fitness trainer who's as passionate as me about redefining age. She has a massive following on Instagram, of which I'm very jealous. She's really, really inspiring, and I knew I just had to have her on the podcast. Welcome, Tania.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. As you know, I'm a long-time listener to your podcast, and I just love it. So I feel very privileged to be part of this.
Oh, I love that. It's really lovely. And just before we hit record, you were telling me how much you liked my intro, and I was like, yay, fantastic. Yeah. That's what I like. So I don't need to shorten it at the moment.
I love it.
Brilliant. So I know that there was something bad that was the impetus behind you first becoming interested in how lifestyle can impact aging. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, 28 years ago, just actually the other day, my dad died of a sudden heart attack when he was only 47. And obviously it was a really devastating time for my family. My brother was only 8 at the time. And I mean, even today, it still impacts our life, not having my dad here. And so, yeah, a year after my dad died, I trained as a fitness instructor, and basically ever since then, I've been researching, studying, driving people crazy, harassing them about aging well and looking after themselves, because I feel that if I can influence one person to make changes to their lifestyle that will prevent them from dying prematurely, then I'll be really happy.
It's so important, isn't it? I mean, when I read that about you, which I didn't know before, it really struck a chord, because my dad didn't die young or that young, but he had a really bad older age from about 65 to 75. He died at 75, which was very young, I think, personally. It is young. But from 65 to 75, he was pretty much immobile, and he had not looked after himself. He'd not taken care of himself. So it really struck a chord when I read that, and I thought, wow, it is so important. But it's often these kind of experiences that make us sit up and take notice, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was life-changing for me, and as terrible as it was, it's also, it's allowed me to find my passion. And now that I'm 52, it's even more important for me, and I'm more passionate about it, and I think I can reach more people, because when I was 25, for example, not that many people took a lot of notice of me when I was telling them about healthy aging. Now that I'm 52 and doing it, I'm a little bit more credible, I suppose.
I bet you wish that they would listen, though, don't you? Because actually, often it's the younger people that we want to listen. I want younger women to hear my message about menopause and all of that. So, yeah, we've got some work to do on trying to convince them to listen to us still, haven't we?
Yeah, I think that's changing, though, don't you? I mean, in the UK, I think it's in the school curriculum now, isn't it, about menopause? Yeah. So things are changing, thank goodness. And I think that's what, you and I are both part of, that we're helping to change the narrative about menopause and bring more attention to it. And then hopefully, women coming after us will be more prepared and be able to cope better than maybe I did, for example.
So why are you so determined now to show women that menopause, it's not an end so much as a whole new beginning?
Well, I think that in the past we've had some preconceived ideas about what aging means, that maybe that it's a time for us to slow down, gain weight, develop lifestyle diseases, but really science and the research tells us that that isn't the case, that it's not necessary. And I, for one, want to live, the rest of my life as vibrantly and actively as I can. And I think the average age for Western women is 51 for menopause. So, for example, if we live until we're 91, that's 40 more years that we're alive. And it's a long time to think that the best years are in the past.
I know.
I'm just not prepared to accept that, and I hope other people aren't either. Like, for example, my grandmother, when she was my age, she acted like an old woman, and she talked about death a lot, and she lived till she was in her 90s. So there was no need to be like that, if that makes sense. So it was, there was still so much living to do, and I'm not going to be, I'm not going to have the best years of my life before 50. I think they're just yet to come, and it's exciting.
We have to change that about society, don't we? That drives me nuts, that this obsession that youth is better and older is less good. It's just so silly. So yeah, when you know what I think, but we get better with age, not worse. And it's just an upward trajectory. If we have our health, and that's the really crucial thing. That's why I think you do what you do, isn't it? Because if we have our health, then everything else is possible.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one thing that I'm really big on. I don't necessarily want to have a long lifespan. I want to have a long health span, where I'm active until basically the day I die, I hope. I don't care about, for example, the way I look as much now. It's what I can do. I want to be traveling when we can, and sightseeing, walking around cities, sightseeing and hiking up mountains and things like that. And I want to still be doing that in another 30 and hopefully 40 years if I can.
And we have to take care of ourselves to be able to do that. I know you've had problems with aches and pains, haven't you? And I notice it, when I get up in the morning, I'm not as flexible as I would like to be. I did a bit of yoga before we came on today, just to sort of try and loosen myself up. But there are things we can do, aren't there, to make sure that our bodies don't stiffen up. Whereas if we don't do them, they are going to stiffen up, which is exactly what happened to my dad. He didn't do anything. So he stiffened up, and then he got locked in that box.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, as we age, we are going to experience issues. I have an osteoarthritic toe joint, for example, but I'm not allowing that to stop me. I've seen quite a few doctors, and the ones that I like best always say that it is better for you to, keep pushing yourself and doing things than not, because even if it, it gets much, much worse, hopefully the technology will be there to, replace my toe joint eventually successfully. But it's so much better to keep moving. And, for example, osteoarthritis, it actually is better to move the joint so it doesn't stiffen up completely. And it's like our whole body. I think that's the same with our whole body. Even if we do have little issues, not doing something is much, is more detrimental than actually exercising and moving and being active.
I find it amazing that you've got this issue in your foot and you are still as incredibly active as you are. Because I think have you signed up for an Ironman or something?
Yes, I have. It's 14 weeks away now, which is very terrifying. A full Ironman triathlon. Yes, a terrifying thing. Now, sometimes I wonder why I've done this, but it's something, I don't know. I did a marathon when I was 47, which was the same age as when my dad died. It took me 30 years to finally have the courage to attempt that. And I think that was a pivotal point in my life, I suppose, that made me realise that I didn't have to be the best at something to actually still be able to achieve it. I always thought that I wasn't capable of doing something, but anyone is capable. If I'm capable of it, anyone is capable of it. And the full Ironman is just another huge challenge I'm going through. Kind of, it's physical, but it's also mental, like having to train. Yeah, I commenced training for the full Ironman basically at the same time my period ceased, and that was a bit of a disaster initially. I suppose my body didn't cope with the hormonal change, and I was struggling to cope with training, and my body composition was changing, and it was very hard. And then COVID struck, so it's been this 2-year quest for me, and just mentally to show that I can push through and keep going, and even risk not finishing the Ironman. I mean, I have to do it in 16 hours and 30 minutes, which sounds like a long time, but there's a really big, long race. So there's a chance I won't even get through some of the cutoffs and I might not do it, but that in itself has been great for me, because I was a bit of a perfectionist and didn't do things if I didn't think I would be good at them. And being able to get to even to the start line and risk not finishing is even that in itself is a huge achievement for me. So not just physically, but just mentally as well. I think it's, great. Probably be my one and only Ironman. But there's always other things. It kind of sets me up for doing other things that are hard in my life after that.
I think that's remarkable. I mean, I really think it's remarkable. I think I have this crazy dream of trying to do a marathon. I did a half when I turned 50. And I'd love to do the marathon, but
you can do it.
I know you're going to say that, but I'm like, oh, crikey. I was going to, and then all sorts of shit started to hit the fan in the period leading up to the marathon. And I just thought, I can't do it. And actually, I listened to my body, and I hate giving up anything. I really hate it. And I told people I was going to do it. So I felt quite ashamed as well when I didn't do it, but I got over it. I was like, accepting it that that wasn't the right time to do it. But to do an Ironman, I mean, so tell me, what exactly does it entail? Because it sounds so scary.
I feel scared even saying it myself, because I've always been sporty, but I've never been good at any actual sport in my whole life. So for me, even attempting this is quite funny. It's a 3.8 kilometre swim, 180 kilometre cycle, and then a marathon, then a 42.2 kilometre run at the end. After all of that,
a full marathon right at the end. It's like, oh my God, I can't even do the full marathon without. But I love your approach to it, that you're going to give it a go. And you've already decided you're not going to beat yourself up if you don't complete it. Because, being a perfectionist can stop us in our tracks from doing things. And it's so daft, isn't it? It just doesn't make sense. Look, it's much better to do your best and have a go and maybe not get to the final bit. But as you say, you've still succeeded because you've done that.
Yeah, definitely. Just even getting through the training, and because it's excruciating sometimes. Like, it's really, for me, it's really hard. I'm not a natural endurance athlete, I suppose. So it's excruciating. But yes, getting to the start line and being able to commit to this training for the full 2 years, basically, that I'll have done it, it's been amazing for me. And I'll be a winner even if I don't finish.
So I'm sure some of the listeners are going to be thinking, why on earth are you doing this to yourself if it's excruciating now? So tell me, why are you doing it?
Do you know what? I don't even know. Sometimes I think I am going through a midlife crisis, but I don't know. It was just the marathon. I did the marathon, then I did a half Ironman triathlon. I've done a couple of those now. And it was just the next thing. I just want to do one. I just want to say I've done one. Like, it's like the marathon. People just want to do one. I just want to do, and I've probably got one more marathon left in my toe joints. So I thought I'll just do a 180 kilometre cycle and a 3.8K swim beforehand. And then I'm going to give up. Then I'm going to retire from that. And I haven't ever done a Olympic distance triathlon yet, which is I don't even know what it is. Maybe a 1K swim, a 40K bike ride, and a 10K run. I haven't ever done one of those yet. So
that's easy. I think
I'll go back to that one. That'll be my first. I'll do the first of that after I've done the Ironman.
That'll be like a walk in the park. That will. So when are you going to be doing this? When does the world need to stop and hold its breath and cheer you on?
Hopefully in June. So I've had 3 events cancelled because of COVID in the last year. And so, at this stage, things are going well for it to be in June. So as long as we don't have one of our lockdowns that we can do now and then, everything will be good, hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Wow. So you talked about menopause being difficult for you. How has it been? What happened? And how are you now?
Yeah. Well, menopause for me, I think it's been one of the most challenging times of my life, but it's also been, and I know some women don't feel this way, but it's also been the best thing that has ever happened to me. For a start, initially, because I was quite a healthy person prior to menopause, and I naively thought that I wouldn't be affected by any menopause symptoms, which I was completely wrong about. So I had quite severe particularly night sweats and probably mood swings. I mean, you know, sometimes you don't recognize them at the time. I'm sure my family did. And lots of little things. But I've used all of my symptoms as maybe my body telling me that I needed to make changes to my lifestyle or my diet or my exercise regime. So I've used it as a time where basically now I feel like I'm healthier than I was before menopause, because I've started to listen to my body. For example, I had quite good nutrition and exercise prior to menopause, but now I feel like I've also explored things like sleep, which I had neglected severely all of my life. And obviously, as you know, when you are menopausal, there's lots more sleep issues as well. That's made me really prioritise sleep. So my sleep's maybe not perfect yet, but it's definitely like now I get 7.5 to 8 hours sleep on average a night, whereas before menopause I lived on under 6, stupidly thinking that was okay, but it wasn't, obviously. It's not good for you to not sleep. And just stress reduction. I really realised that I didn't manage stress well, and then as you know, when estrogen disappears, your management of cortisol, you know, is disrupted, and that was quite difficult for me. I don't think my body coped as well either. So it's made me really rethink a lot of things that I had in the past, and in the end, I feel like I'm actually healthier overall than I was beforehand, which is fantastic.
I think that's amazing. I love that approach. I mean, you know, I agree on the whole listen to your body thing, but I feel better. I feel better now. I feel healthier. I got a few aches and pains, but I feel much more me health wise. I think I feel sort of more authentically me as well.
That's exactly the same.
And sleep is so important, isn't it? I'm only just beginning to realize that.
I think it is probably the most important thing in your health. That and stress management, I think, are the two most important things in our health, like even more than exercise and diet. And they're the things that I neglected in the past. So menopause has allowed me to see that, and my body has told me that I need to address those things. And it's great. I'm really pleased that I've listened to my body and made changes and continue to make those changes and listen to what it needs. One thing I think as well with menopause that I really, really like is that we don't have those fluctuating hormones. Well, once you hit postmenopause, you don't have those fluctuating hormones. So, there's none of that. I had quite, I suppose, bad PMT when I was younger, and now it's so nice just to have this like stability. And I know that not all women experience that straight away, and it took me a while, but now my hormones have settled. It's a really nice feeling. I really like it, and I think it's something we should be celebrating, and not having periods anymore either. I mean,
I agree. So you've talked about finding a simple and effective way to transform your own life. Is what you've talked about part of that, presumably? Is there anything else that is part of that?
Basically that's kind of, it's just my attitude has changed. And I don't believe in, obviously I have an extreme exercise regime for my Ironman training, which is not normal. But once I finish that, I'll be going back to a more realistic and lighter training program. So I just think that I don't believe in fad diets or restrictive diets. I don't really take very many or hardly ever any supplements or anything like that. I just try to just live it as simply and healthily as possible. So I cook as many meals as I can myself. I think it's really important to get outside a lot, especially in the morning, to get morning light in our eyes so our circadian rhythms can start working properly, which then helps us sleep in the end. And spending time in nature, I don't know, I think it's a really important thing to be outside a lot and get vitamin D, get our sunlight, which is hard for you guys over there, obviously, but even more important why you should be getting outside a lot. So I just have this really simple approach to life, and I think it's basically really effective. I just don't think there's some people are after miracles and quick fixes, but there is none, and there's no magic pill. It's just really living a simple, healthy lifestyle that includes movement, good nutrition most of the time. Like I still eat my favourite foods like bread and chocolate most days. But other than that, I have a really healthy diet. And, yeah, just making time for relaxation and being around people that you love.
And you come to terms with the so-called negative aspects of aging in terms of, you know, how the body changes and how our looks change. Have you managed to come to peace with that?
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, it was quite a shock for me when my body did start changing, because I was training for this Ironman, doing more exercise than I'd ever done before, and my body composition started changing, and I saw significant muscle mass loss and belly fat gain. I mean, I've always had a little bit of a belly anyway, but you know, like a proper like hormonal belly fat. I was a little bit shocked for a start, I suppose. But I must admit, things have kind of settled down, and my body's kind of, I don't, maybe I've changed my diet a little bit and exercise a little bit to work more with my body than against it. And I'm just more accepting. I mean, I think there's more important things than the way we look. I mean, like I said, I want to be able to climb mountains and sightsee and do a physical event or something like that if I want to. I don't really think that worrying about a little bit of extra body fat's really that important in the long run, as long as we're healthy.
But you do a lot of exercise. So for the women,
I do a lot of exercise.
You do a lot of exercise.
I can't wait for the 14 weeks to go. Now I'm just going to be lazy for a while.
So for those of us who don't do quite so much exercise, actually a lot less exercise, what suggestions or recommendations do you have in terms of, you know, diet? So what should we be including or not including? And then also exercise. But if we start with diet, how have you changed your diet?
Well, with diet, the changes I've made, I've realised when things started to go bad with me, with my training and my body, I had a little bit more of a look about what I did eat, which it was healthy. But as most women this age, we come from the 80s when it was all high carb, low fat. And I think that influence still, unintentionally influenced the way I ate a little bit. So I really neglected protein in my diet. So I've added a lot more protein in my diet, just to make sure that I have some kind of protein in every meal that I eat now. So just so that we've got like a nice range of it throughout the day. And that helps us to keep us satisfied as well, which is really important because we don't want to be starving. And then I've also included a lot more foods that have phytoestrogens in them, so that theoretically help balance our hormones a little bit. And things like flax seeds, legumes, broccoli, some fermented soy products and edamame beans, things like that. And then I think just overall, just ensuring that I'm having a lot more vegetables and fruit in my diet, so I'm getting a lot more nutrients, and that's kind of the way I've approached diet. I don't have I haven't really ever cut anything out. I've probably just added some more things and added more variety, because I think the more variety we get, the better it is for our gut microbiome. And when you're eating a lot of healthy foods, then you don't feel like as many junky, cakey things either. Not saying that you shouldn't have those, but just as long as most of your diet is made up of healthy foods. Then with exercise, I think one thing that is just critical is that we strength train, because we lose so much muscle mass, bone density and strength from midlife onwards, and that's kind of the number one thing that we really need to do. I mean, even myself, because I was training for this Ironman event, I'd kind of neglected my strength training because of time, and maybe because it wasn't my priority, and that's where I saw my muscle mass really decrease quite significantly. So yeah, it's definitely an important thing. And there is a bit of a controversy at the moment about what kind of strength training to do. You'll see lots of things online about that we only need to lift little light weights and things, but really to stimulate our bone rebuilding and our muscle mass, we really do need to lift heavy things. So but by that I mean something that we can maybe only lift around 6 times. And we don't do that straight away. You need to obviously work up to that. You don't want to try and go and lift something really heavy and injure yourself for a start. But So we really need to kind of do those things. But our workouts as well, I think the days have gone where we thrash ourselves for an hour or two and so exhausted we can't move afterwards, because basically all that does is really increase our cortisol levels, which increases the stress in our body, which is counterproductive. So we try to keep the exercise sessions quite short, but really effective. So doing heavy lifting and then adding some HIIT workouts, which is high intensity interval workouts. So they are the intense kind of ones, but not for very long. So even 10 to 15 minutes is all we need. And so I suppose once I've finished my Ironman, ideally I would probably do 2 sessions a week of maybe 15 to 20 minutes where I'm lifting something quite heavy. And using lots of muscles, so like a squat or a lunge and things like that, where you lose lots of joints and muscles. And then another 2 sessions where I'm doing some kind of like a little bit higher intensity workouts, but only for like 10 or 15 minutes. Yeah, and then add some things like yoga and things like that are calming and help reduce our cortisol levels and help our flexibility. Or Pilates, something like that. And yeah, and then the other thing is as well, incidental exercise. That's my favorite topic in the whole world. I really think that we really need to just move a lot. Like, it doesn't have to be fast. We just need to move a lot throughout the day. So walking wherever we can, or if you can cycle, to the shops and things like that, rather than driving, things like that really help us stay mobile and healthy throughout our life.
It's use it or lose it, isn't it? It really is.
Definitely.
When it comes to physicality. Yeah. So we can't go to the gym at the moment. So what do you recommend in terms of being able to do those things at home?
Yeah, sure. Well, there's lots of things online that you can look up. But if I tried to do a push-up, that's hard. I can't do a proper push-up more than 6 times. So that is a weight. My body is a weight. So that's stimulating my bones and muscles, because that's a heavy weight. I'm trying to lift my whole body up 6 times. It's really hard. I'm not that actually great at push-ups. So you don't necessarily need a lot of equipment at home. I don't have heaps of equipment at home. So I've even, for example, used in the past some water containers that you take camping and hold them, and if just walking along with them is really hard, or a squat with them and things like that. So you can be really creative. Like, I don't know whether you've seen some of my workouts, but I've got old tires that I toss around and tires are really heavy and awkward. So you could get a tire and try to lift it above your head 6 times, and that's probably going to be plenty heavy enough. So there's so many things that you can do, and you don't really need expensive or a lot of equipment.
Yeah, I love that, actually. Yeah, so everybody go and check out the Instagram feed, because it's pretty amazing. Yeah, I've seen you tossing the tires. That's very
it's really it's great therapy as well.
I bet. Yeah, it's like, wow.
Do have to be careful. It's not something I'd recommend someone that hasn't exercised to do, because you've got to have good core control and things like that. So yeah, don't go and just copy me without some kind of basic training. But yes, you don't have to throw them. You can just lift them up and things like that.
So what can we do to strengthen our core and hopefully maybe try and get rid of some of that excess belly fat?
Yeah, well, as you probably know, you can't really spot reduced belly fat.
I'm glad you said that, actually, because I think I'm still trying to do that.
Do you know what? In the back of my mind, I do too. That's just think, well, because when it hurts, you kind of think, oh, yeah, I must be going, but it doesn't. Well, with belly fat, I really do believe that stress has a lot to do with it, and our cortisol levels. So it sounds crazy, but you need to get your sleep and manage your stress to really help, because our body is trying to grab onto it and grab onto those excess calorie. But when we make cortisol, don't get me wrong, I don't know the exact science to this, but when our body is stressed, it releases cortisol instead of some other hormones that might help burn our calories. So then it retains it as fat, because it's in times of fight or flight. So it's really important as far as that goes, I think, to make sure you're getting your sleep and managing your stress really well. And then obviously working our core is lots of things like the plank kind of things, but you can do lots of other things so often when you do lots of different exercises. So I kind of, when you're doing a squat, it uses your core. When you use your core in a lot of exercises, so you don't have to just do your planks and things like that. And sadly, sit-ups don't really get rid of belly fat. Sorry.
Sometimes it's just about being reminded, because I'm pulling my core in for dear life now, just talking to you.
Just sitting and contracting your core muscles working your core. So it's like when you're doing, the yoga postures and things like that, you need to control your core to do the yoga postures and so you can do it just sitting still.
You've talked about managing stress. So how do you manage your stress?
Oh, well, one thing I have changed, like I wouldn't call myself a meditator as such. I can't really sit there for an hour meditating, but I do recognize the benefits, and it goes without saying that there are benefits to meditation and mindfulness, which I think most people are aware of now. So I have reduced my perfectionist tendencies, and now again, which is really good for me, and now I have this thing where even if I just do 1 minute meditation, so I use an app, and even if I just do a 1 or 2 minute meditation, maybe 1 or 2 times a day, then I'm getting into the habit. And so then gradually, when I can as well, I'll do a longer one. But the minimum I do is even just 1 minute a couple of times a day, or when I'm feeling stressed as well. So I've got this favorite one that I listen to. I can almost say it off by heart now, I think. When I get stressed now, I think about that my favorite little meditation, 1 minute, and I just kind of do my breathing, and that really helps. And
so just can you share that meditation? Because I think everybody's going to want to know what that one is.
What, say it?
No. Is it a track that you listen to? The app and the track.
Yes. So at the moment I've been using. I'm thinking, I can't.
No, I'm not testing you on it. No. It's like, recite it right now in the middle of the podcast. It's really nice.
I wish I'd written it down, because it's a really nice one. I love it. I love it. Anyway, you can look it up. I just use basically the free Insight Timer app a lot at the moment. I use a couple of others, but that's one I use. And then you can just search, like for example, you can search 5-minute guided meditations. And what's the one that I use? What's my favorite one? My favorite track?
Well, we'll find it. We'll find it. And I'll put it in the show notes.
I have a group that I've created called Beautiful Midlife, and I think people can actually access that. No one never has. I just kind of use it for myself to keep my favorite ones in it. And I think you can actually go into that and have a look at the little ones that I've been saving as my favorites.
So the group is on Insight Timer.
Yeah, so
how exciting! I should go.
Yeah, Beautiful Midlife. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I think other people can access it. I think someone could actually join that and have a look at the ones that I have chosen as my favourites. Yeah,
brilliant. Oh, well, that's a fantastic.
So that's something
resource.
I've done. I just think you don't have to be sitting for an hour chanting to meditate. Like, even if you can just quiet your mind for a minute, even you get some benefits. And one of the other things, I mean, I do a variety of things to help with stress management, but one thing I think that has really been life-changing for me is just to be kinder to myself. And I know lots of people say that. I mean, I think as women, we're quite hard on ourselves, and we're quite, we have quite high expectations. And I think I've just kind of lowered my standards a little and just trying to be kinder to myself overall.
Good for you. I've heard you talk about not being brave enough to live the life you live now when you were younger. Yeah. Why is that?
Again, going back to my perfectionist attitude, I suppose. I was kind of one of those could have, would have, could have, should have people and never actually did anything. And if I couldn't do things, be the best at them, I didn't do them at all. And sadly, I'm actually that talented at anything. So it meant I didn't achieve very much in my life. And then, when I approached 47, which was the age when my dad died, I thought, oh my goodness, if I only live a short life like my dad, it's nearly over, and I've really got to just start, living my life. And I read Brene Brown's book, which was quite a life-changing thing for me as well. And just the way she talks about vulnerability, and it's just kind of the way I always felt, but I never was brave enough to actually live that way. And I think menopause and midlife, both of those things have helped me get over that and just, I don't know, start showing the world the real me.
That's lovely. Yeah, it comes back to that authenticity, doesn't it? I think we get that definitely. As we go through menopause, and we lose estrogen, which makes us do weird things.
It's great. Don't you think it's great? I mean,
I do.
For all the negative things of losing it, there are negative things of losing estrogen, yes. But I think it, although we're still, and I think I might have heard you talk to someone about this on your podcast, although we're still mothers or have our responsibilities to other people, and we still have that nurturing kind of way, that the removal of estrogen, it allows us to become more straightforward, I suppose, and just, to be able to have the courage to say what we think and not stand back and hold our voices.
Not compromise quite so much.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely a positive. It's great. Yeah. For women who, I know people are scared of losing their estrogen, and there are negatives, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of positives as well. So
what would you most like women to know?
I want women to know that menopause is something that we can embrace rather than fear. I really do. I think it's so important. And also to live a healthy and vibrant life into old age. I think it really does come down to making fitness and health a priority and an everyday part of your life. But to remember that, by doing this, that we deserve to live our best lives, and we deserve to be fit and healthy. And it's never too late. It's just never too late. I want to be doing things when I'm 90. I don't want to be in a nursing home. I want to be living life and experiencing things still in my 90s, hopefully, maybe 100. We'll see.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Magnificent Midlife podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, share it, and leave me a review wherever you're listening. It really helps me get the message out. You can find out more information about this episode in the show notes at magnificentmidlife.com. That's also where you'll find strategies, support, and resources to help make your midlife magnificent. Get clarity on how to make the most of your next chapter. Help me change the world, one magnificent midlife woman at a time.